Hey y'all, it's Fairy Godmother. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Shout out to Scorpio Sun and Moon for inspiring this. She has an awesome YouTube channel that's like just talking about Scorpios and being a Scorpio. And I had been meditating, I'm an astrologer. I've been an astrologer for 20 years, so I've been meditating on this for a while. And one of the things that I love to do in my sessions, in my ancestral wisdom sessions, is when I'm reading a chart, I really start with here's the things people won't tell you about being a Taurus or whatever, because there is usually a party line, at least on somebody's sun sign. And when I started out, people knew a lot less about astrology. But now, I'm really happy because generally people speak the language. But anyway, sun is literally shining right here, so this is a confirmation. I've never read The Artist's Way, but it's been rule of threes that, people have told me about it. And generally, what I got from that is that ancestors want me to journal when I wake up. And so, as typical of a Leo, it's like 11 something. This is me. Usually wake up around 8, but we do not like to get up quickly. So I'm very happy to be here and have this space to luxuriate on nature, even during this quarantine of the body and spirit. So I wanted to talk today about being a two-spirit person. I had a particular wish this year that's come true for 2020 that, Pride Month not be a month and Black History Month not be a month, but it be year-round, these discussions. And I'm seeing it come to fruition. So as a Black and Indigenous queer femme, I meditate a lot on divine masculine and feminine energies anyway. I do a lot of work with divine unions and coaching people who are in divine unions, so I might be discussing that as well. But I love being a Leo woman in particular because it is inherently being a two-spirit person. A Leo woman is born essentially with divine masculine and feminine energies in balance. And I love that because, we know the lioness hunts and works in pride. And I love that as well, this kind of like groupthink, which is the shadow energy of Aquarius. So yeah, well, I was meditating on this idea, about being masculine and feminine. And so it's like, to me, acting is part of being deeply feminine. I guess you could say the chase. I've always had a hard time in relationships and things because a man wants to feel like a man. This is, again, these are party lines. These are not realities, right? But the party line is a man wants to feel like a man, therefore a man needs to be, sometimes I hear these creepy guys on YouTube and wherever they come from, it's creepy to me to say you have to get a man by being passive or creating or playing hard to get. Let's take that example, playing hard to get. I'm because that's not authentic. A Leo, first of all, when we like someone, generally speaking, we don't have a difference between like and love. That's something you should know. You know what I mean? If a Leo is into you, we love you. And we might have let's say, I think Libras get accused of this a lot of times, but generally I do think that Leos can be the kind of people who are also very much in love with love. we might seem that way, but we actually are, like, we love, you know. And I was listening to this beautiful man. I wish I could remember his name. I'll put his link in the comments, because he was talking to, again, another celebrity. I'm terrible with names of people, places, and things. There's a reason for that, but I'll let you know later. So this famous trans woman who played a big role on Orange is the New Black, it was a beautiful conversation, and he was talking about growing up, how he was a very sensitive child who cried a lot and wanted his mother, and generally, like, he played sports and he had this really, you know, strong masculine energy that would show up on the field. But when, you know, off the field or whatever, he was a very sensitive boy. And he also talked about his teammates and stuff being very, like, no homo and stuff like that, because he always wanted to hug them and put his arm around people. And he said, "I love you" freely. I was like, oh my God, my little Leo heart, like, exploded when I heard that, because I think about the number of times where, like, I just blurted out, "I love you" to a friend, you know what I mean? Or someone I just met. And they were like, you know? And we're just like, oh. So yeah, I really identified with that, and I wonder now actually if he's a Leo man, because I think that Leo men are also inherently two-spirit people, meaning they have this very strong masculine protective energy, rage that can, you know, come out and scare people if needed, but they're deeply sensitive. And I always, like, think that it's interesting, if you actually watch, like, nature shows and stuff, Leo men are like stay-at-home dads. You know, you never, like, what's happening, who's with the young ones, while I have never seen this on a nature show. Please comment if you've seen it. But I'm like, so I know there might be something where some of the mothers, like, stay behind or whatever, but generally speaking, at some point, the male lions are caring for the children. And I saw this, like, in a Leo partner. He was the primary caretaker of his son. And I thought this was a very natural role for a Leo man to play. He had his territory. It was, you know, a pretty, it's not small or large or whatever, but containable territory that he paced regularly. He had a routine. I'm literally seeing him going around, like, the perimeter of this area of Manhattan, right? I can see the perimeter from an aerial view. I have hawk spirit, you know, of his territory, and actually, like, see his movement being that his weekly process, no matter what, was to move around this perimeter. And he very rarely left his territory. If I wanted to see him, I would have to come to see him. And it was, you know, wherever it was on his territory, whether it was work, his home, his other, you know, his ex-wife's home, it was all fair game. But I had to come to him generally, right? So this is really interesting, and I hope it helps, you know, not just the Leos who are listening, but anyone, you know, who's partnering with that, because, you know, both Leo men and women have a very strong, this two-spirit, divine masculine, feminine balance makes us very unique. Therefore, we are often misunderstood inside of people's assumptions, inside of the societal party line about gender and behavior and things like that. So, you know, I think Leo women are known for being, like, controlling, overbearing. I'm trying to think of, like, things that I heard people say. Controlling and overbearing, let's just, like, start there, right? So being the hunters and being responsible for the pride, you know, we have our eye on a lot of things that people don't have their eyes on. And we also don't, I say this all the time, like, Leos don't like to explain themselves. And it's really interesting because, you know, I don't even want to say an unevolved. I'll say, you'll hear me talk about evolved like signs, but I also don't want to say unevolved. But like an unaware Leo, it has to do with love of self. That's why saying that is, I don't want to have like the stigma, especially like Leos are very sensitive about that or whatever. But someone, Leo who hasn't evolved into loving themselves fully will explain themselves a lot. And you'll notice for the Leos that are listening that like we're not heard. So it doesn't really make a difference whether we, explain ourselves. That misunderstanding is still there. And so that's why the only way that we can shift the conversations we're in with our loved ones is to love ourselves even more deeply. At the same time, there's this like the hunter mentality is not that you stand in the middle of the savannah, you know what I mean, and like explain why we're doing what we're doing. It's you go to the left and flank the left, you flank the right, you bring up the rear, I'm going now. Generally, that's the communication of Leo. I'm going now. Whatever you find a place, fall in line, right? But that is, not a behavior that comes from like, I need to be this, I need to be in control, I need to be like respected as an authority. If you see that kind of posturing from a Leo, especially a Leo woman, it's generally coming from an underlying sense of danger that we have. So now we're getting upset because you're making us explain our, perspective while you're not seeing, that danger is like encroaching or, and we have that mama lion energy. So even if like actual children are involved in many ways on the human spectrum, like everyone is, our child, and there ensues that, the perspective also of being like condescending. But it really is that we have this like macro view at being like instinctively at the top of the food chain, that just it's instinct, it kicks in. And the more like that people push back, essentially the more danger there is, because an enemy will create a distraction. An enemy will create confusion. You know what I mean? You see this like all the time in the movies or whatever, when people have like in one of those like robber movies, or, a group of friends has a mission and they need to like sneak in, create a distraction. What do? Create a distraction. The distraction will be usually some kind of upheaval. And so generally, like the more upheaval that people get in, around our leadership, you're not going to get us to be like, to sit down at that time. Now everything has gone to hell. And until like order is reestablished or whatever, like what you're not going to see, you know what I mean, as a Leo woman, like back down in that circumstance and be like, okie doke, like, let's just wait to be eaten, It's not what's going to happen, right? So I just want to give, people a context or whatever, because if you love a Leo, it can be like really difficult once you get into that situation where these instincts have been triggered. Understand that they are instincts and not like personality defects. Like we're born to spirit, we were born like this. Like we have the lion instincts are in us and they naturally come out and they're not personal. So if you see one of these behaviors going on, definitely take the perspective and the context, like, okay, this is a lion in the savannah. What's happening here, right? Why is this person, essentially, especially if a Leo woman is roaring in their masculine energy, like they feel, it's usually a Leo man will roar when they feel threatened. A Leo woman will roar when they feel that someone they love is threatened. Even you, right? Even you in your argument or you're creating a distraction, creating a division, are in danger. And therefore, like, you know what I'm saying? Our response is to push more into that masculine energy and try to regain control of the situation. And it's not like I say, it's not coming from a personal thing, it's coming from a protective eye of the pride. So if you can remember that, what there is to do is to, to help the masculine energy in the woman, like, sit down, is to, just for that moment, let it go. Like, the easiest way, literally, in words, to diffuse a Leo woman is just to say you're right. Because if we don't have, like, an argument, then there's no danger, then we can proceed, right? And then the instinct will come down that has taken over the personality. And the personality that's there, which a Leo's, like, baseline personality is always a people-pleasing personality. Again, pride mentality is we want to foster cooperation. Our absolute pet peeve is if someone doesn't tell us that they're hurt, or we did something wrong in their eyes, or we made a mistake in their eyes. If we don't know, we can't do better. And so even if it seems like when you tell us something that, like, we're hurt, and we will, like, our pride will do whatever it does, but we are listening and we will do better if you allow it. If you don't allow, like, whatever reaction, again, instinctively happens around criticism or whatever, if you just ignore that, you understand it's not personal, again, it's instinct, and then let us, like, sit with whatever it is that you said, you will, like, we will correct our actions. We will. And you may not hear or see suffering the way that you want. You know what I mean? I feel like when people are right, they want the other person to be wrong. They want the other person to feel wrong and acknowledge this kind of thing. We just shift. Like, Leos heal very quickly and we integrate very quickly. Again, because, like, think of a lion on the savannah. Okay, there's new information. Okay, got it. This way, not that way. We love that. If you can tell us this way, not that way, even if we act like we don't, like, love it, like, we get so empowered by the knowledge, an evolved Leo really will. And if you're a Leo and you are listening and you don't like taking correction, you want to get interested in having people around you who will say this way, not that. That doesn't mean that we're going to accept, that, especially if it's, like, again, around leadership, right? But if it's around, like, being a good partner, for instance, I like my milk this way, not that. I don't know, my coffee. You know what I'm saying? We're like, oh, great. We'll get it. Then, like, we'll get offended. Because that's why I tell us right away if you have a thing. Because if you come back and you have that thing and you've been holding on to it, for days or weeks or years, those 3 days, like, that you kept that in and you let us show like, you let us make a mistake. Oh my God, we feel so unloved by that. By the perspective that, like, we were doing something wrong and you didn't share it, and and I get it. It's a rock and a hard place, because now you're going to say it and we're going to get upset. But if, like, you're a partner to a Leo, the more that you can practice just saying it and saying it in this way, like, hey, I know you like to do your best, so, like, here's this thing. Just give it, It's like a gift to us. We're like, oh my God, someone's actual opinion, like, that they said honestly. Like, we treasure that so much because it's a form of loyalty. That's exactly what we're reliable for in your lives. It's like being like, hey, the toilet paper stuck to your foot, like, whatever that thing is, that if you're out there in the world showing your ass, we're gonna be like, we're the ones, you know what I mean? Even if we don't know you, like, we're the ones who, like, tuck your tag in and shit, because we hate that shit. We hate being out here in the street and you guys are just letting us, like, it's like people love when we have some small imperfection that other people can see. They won't tell us, or they'll point it out in front of other people instead of being like, hey, da da da. God, fucking don't. Fuck you guys for that shit. Every Leo knows this and feels exactly what I'm saying. So that's my share for the day. I'm not sure how much I stuck to the two-spirit conversation, but I hope it was helpful. And let me know what else you guys want to know about Leo energy. Love y'all. May all beings be happy and free.